For a brief moment, it appeared that Southeast Asia might be heading toward another dangerous regional confrontation. Tensions between Thailand and Cambodia had been rising once again over disputed border territory, with military movements, nationalist rhetoric, and fears of escalation putting the entire region on edge. But behind closed doors, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. quietly stepped into the middle of the crisis and helped prevent the situation from spiraling further. The diplomatic intervention came during high-level ASEAN meetings where leaders from across Southeast Asia gathered amid growing geopolitical uncertainty. While much of the public attention focused on trade, security, and regional cooperation, another urgent issue was unfolding in the background: the increasingly fragile relationship between Thailand and Cambodia. For decades, the two neighboring countries have disputed sections of their shared border, although previous ceasefires and negotiations had temporarily reduced tensions. Recent incidents reignited concerns about possible military conflict. Troop deployments near contested areas and heated political messaging created fears that even a small incident could trigger a wider confrontation. Amid those concerns, Marcos facilitated talks between Cambodian Prime Minister Han Manet and Thai Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul. According to officials familiar with the discussions, the Philippine president worked quietly to encourage direct communication between both sides while emphasizing restraint and diplomacy. After the meeting, Marcos confirmed that progress had been made and that both governments agreed to continue discussions aimed at preventing escalation. This was possible because of a very clear, fervent belief by both leaders that it is time for peace and no longer a time for war, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said. The statement reflected the broader tone of the discussions. ASEAN leaders were deeply aware that another armed conflict inside Southeast Asia would not only threaten regional stability, but also damage economic cooperation and investor confidence at a time when many countries are already dealing with inflation, security concerns, and global political uncertainty. Officials later revealed that both Thailand and Cambodia agreed to continue diplomatic engagement through their foreign ministers and military channels. Confidence-building measures were also reportedly discussed to reduce the chances of accidental clashes along the border. The talks were seen as a rare diplomatic success for ASEAN, an organization that has often been criticized for moving too slowly during regional crises. Analysts noted that Marcos' involvement allowed both sides to de-escalate tensions without appearing politically weak at home. For the Philippines, the mediation effort also carried symbolic importance. Marcos has been attempting to position Manila as a stronger regional player capable of contributing to stability and diplomacy in Southeast Asia. But while the Philippine president was helping calm tensions abroad, a completely different crisis was exploding back home, one that exposed deep political divisions and raised alarming questions about instability inside the Philippines itself. Inside the Philippine Senate, chaos erupted after authorities attempted to arrest Senator Ronald De La Rosa, a close ally of former President Rodrigo Duterte. De La Rosa is wanted by the International Criminal Court over allegations connected to Duterte's controversial anti-drug campaign, which led to thousands of deaths during police operations when De La Rosa served as the country's police chief. The ICC recently issued an arrest warrant accusing him of crimes against humanity linked to the anti-drug crackdown. De La Rosa has repeatedly denied wrongdoing and rejected the authority of the court. What happened next shocked the country as law enforcement personnel moved toward the Senate complex to carry out the arrest. Operation gunfire suddenly erupted inside the building. Panic spread almost instantly. Witnesses described senators, employees, and journalists scrambling for cover as security officers rushed through the corridors. The Senate was placed on lockdown while confusion and fear intensified throughout the compound. The dramatic confrontation quickly transformed into one of the most serious political crises the Philippines has faced in years. Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano later delivered emotional remarks as the situation unfolded. The Senate was under attack, Alan Peter Cayetano said. His comments reflected the extraordinary atmosphere inside the legislature during the standoff. As the tension escalated, Cayetano appeared visibly shaken while trying to address growing concerns over safety and control inside the Senate building. "I don't know what is happening. I do not know if I can keep my people safe here," Alan Peter Cayetano said. Authorities later confirmed that no fatalities had been reported, although the source of the gunfire remained under investigation. Security forces eventually secured the building, but the political damage had already been done. Even more controversially, reports later emerged that De La Rosa had disappeared from Senate protection during the confusion. The revelation immediately fueled accusations, conspiracy theories, and political outrage across the country. Critics questioned whether the chaos had been used intentionally to help the senator evade arrest. Others accused the government of mishandling the operation and creating unnecessary instability inside one of the country's most important democratic institutions. The standoff also intensified the growing political conflict between the Marcos and Duterte camps. What was once considered a powerful political alliance has now evolved into a bitter rivalry between two of the Philippines' most influential families. At the center of the confrontation is Vice President Sara Duterte, the daughter of Rodrigo Duterte. She is currently facing impeachment proceedings over allegations involving misuse of public funds, unexplained wealth, and threats directed at President Marcos and his family. The impeachment process is expected to become one of the most explosive political battles in modern Philippine history. If convicted, Sara Duterte could be removed from office and disqualified from running in the 2028 presidential election. As a result, the arrest attempt against De La Rosa is being viewed by many not simply as a legal matter, but as part of a much larger political struggle over power, influence, and the future direction of the country. Supporters of Duterte accuse the Marcos administration of weaponizing state institutions against political rivals. Meanwhile, Marcos allies argue that the government is merely fulfilling legal obligations and respecting international judicial processes. The divide has become increasingly emotional and deeply polarized. For Duterte's supporters, the former president remains a popular figure credited with aggressively fighting crime and restoring public order during his administration. But critics argue that the anti-drug campaign enabled widespread extrajudicial killings and created a culture of impunity inside law enforcement agencies. Human rights groups and families of victims have continued demanding accountability for years. Following the Senate chaos, some relatives of those killed during anti-drug operations expressed anger over what they described as unequal justice. Many pointed out that ordinary Filipinos died without legal protections during the drug war, while powerful political figures now appeared capable of resisting arrest through political influence and institutional support. The ICC investigations against Rodrigo Duterte and Ronald De La Rosa have therefore become far more than legal proceedings. They now represent a major political and moral battle inside the Philippines. The Senate itself has also become deeply divided. Some senators openly defended De La Rosa and questioned the legitimacy of international intervention. Others insisted that Philippine institutions cannot selectively follow the rule of law depending on political alliances. Cayetano's actions during the crisis also came under scrutiny. Critics accused him of helping shield De La Rosa from arrest, allegations he denied. He maintained that his primary concern during the incident was protecting the Senate and ensuring the safety of everyone inside the building. Meanwhile, President Marcos attempted to calm public fears by urging restraint and calling for a full investigation into the gunfire incident. The president also reportedly convened emergency security meetings following the chaos. Still, the images coming from Manila deeply unsettled many Filipinos. Armed officers inside the Senate, gunshots echoing through government halls, lawmakers accusing one another of political persecution, and a wanted senator disappearing amid confusion. For many citizens, the scene symbolized a dangerous level of political instability. What made the moment even more striking was the contrast between Marcos' role abroad and the situation unfolding at home. Internationally, he was being praised for helping reduce tensions between Thailand and Cambodia through diplomacy and dialogue. Domestically, however, his administration was confronting one of the country's most volatile internal political crises in years. Regional observers noted that the Philippines now appears to be balancing two completely different realities at the same time. On one side, the country is attempting to present itself as a stabilizing force in Southeast Asia. On the other, it is dealing with escalating internal conflict involving the Senate, the vice presidency, international courts, and rival political dynasties. Despite the uncertainty, ASEAN officials expressed cautious optimism after the Thailand-Cambodia discussions. Diplomats familiar with tea. He Talk said the meeting helped reduce immediate fears of military escalation and creating momentum for future negotiations. Marcos later emphasized the broader importance of unity and cooperation inside ASEAN. This meeting has demonstrated how our relationship in ASEAN is built on mutual respect, trust, solidarity, and understanding, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said. The message was intended to reinforce ASEAN's image as a platform for dialogue rather than confrontation. But back in the Philippines, the political climate remains tense and unpredictable. Investigations into the Senate gunfire are continuing. The search for De La Rosa remains a major issue, and the impeachment battle involving Vice President Sara Duterte threatens to deepen divisions even further. For now, the Philippines finds itself standing at a remarkable crossroads. The same government that helped prevent a regional diplomatic crisis abroad is simultaneously struggling to contain a political crisis at home. Whether the country can maintain stability in the coming months may depend not only on legal outcomes or political maneuvering, but also on whether its institutions can withstand the growing pressure of polarization, rivalry, and public distrust. And as Southeast Asia watches closely, one reality has become impossible to ignore. The Philippines is no longer dealing with ordinary political disagreements. It is entering a period where regional diplomacy, domestic power struggles, international justice, and institutional stability are all colliding at the same time.